someone wise told me is chase one rabbit at a time.
Welcome to Think Like an Owner, the Bottom Line Show, where we speak with operators, leaders, and professionals about how they think once growth and income are no longer the main constraint. The goal of the show is to bring real conversations to the forefront around the decisions that shape long-term outcomes, from capital and strategy to leadership, risk, and positioning. Today, we're joined by Hinesh Chauhan. Hinesh is the founder of Evolut Consulting, a firm that helps founders, executive teams, and organizations strengthen governance, improve execution, prepare for capital, and navigate complex growth challenges. Before launching his consulting practice, he spent decades in military leadership and senior government roles, overseeing major infrastructure portfolios, capital programs, and organizational transformation initiatives. Throughout his career, he has worked in environments where execution carries significant financial, operational, and public accountability consequences. Today, he applies those experiences to help organizations build the systems, decision-making processes, and operational discipline required to grow without losing control. Perspective, especially interesting, is his ability to identify when growth, capital, and organizational complexity have started to outpace existing systems, and then help leaders build the structure required to move forward with confidence. So today's conversation will just be about how that kind of thinking translates into real decisions, especially when you operate at such a high level. So thank you so much for joining me today. For the people who are just hearing about Evolut Consulting for the first time, can you tell us what kind of organizations typically reach out to you and what has usually happened inside the business before they make that call?
Fair question. The majority of companies we work with are companies that are scaling and are looking to achieve a certain revenue amount or impact. And what I and we pride ourselves on is really working with companies that create long-term socioeconomic benefits. So the people that are doing good and not just extracting value from everything and everyone. Companies come to me when they've reached their glass ceiling, or they're facing challenges with regulatory bodies, or simply the market shifting as it has. So it's about getting that clarity in terms of the critical path. We're here, we're spinning our wheels, and we're hitting these roadblocks. So how do we overcome that and achieve the outcomes that we really want to achieve?
That's interesting. So what size company do you usually work with? Is it the small to medium-sized businesses, or is it the larger corporations?
It's mostly smaller companies in under usually around the 3 to 40 million in annual revenue.
Okay. So another thing that I found interesting is that you spent years in military leadership and senior government roles before actually launching the consulting practice. So what pushed you to make that transition?
It's an interesting journey. It wasn't as if I set out to go into a specific profession. And even for what I studied, it was engineering, then economics, and then a master's in management. So there's a wide variety there, because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grow up. Still trying to figure that out. But the path was, hey, the military, when I was 16, waiting to turn 17 to join, was actually an escape from my parents. Growing up under the thumb of strict immigrant parents and wanting the freedom, the Army looked really exciting as maybe a bored teenage boy that had too much energy and loved the appeal of getting sent away, housed, fed, paid, and taught how to use explosives as a combat engineer. So I signed up, and I thought I did for a couple of years, and it ended up progressing far longer because it was so rewarding and challenging. In the trade as a combat engineer, they're the frontline troops that work with the infantry and the armored, and our role is to help friendly forces to live, move, and fight on the battlefield and and deny the enemy the same, which was what I didn't realize at the time was my strengths and risk management got honed there. At the same time, I was going to school at night, was doing a master's in management, was leading an engineer squadron, and they were my petri dish of experimentation or practicing what I learned.
Right.
And then that progressed to the government. After having kids and about to deploy overseas again, my wife at the time was like, "What's it all for?" I just completed a master's. So then I transitioned into the government, overseeing for our Treasury Board or the Treasury in the US, overseeing high value, high risk initiatives, defense initiatives, and then into infrastructure and then into leading Canada's infrastructure stimulus programs to getting really disheartened in terms of leading high value initiatives, consulting with industry, having the data and the evidence and making recommendations to cabinet, but those decisions weren't being selected. And when I started following the money, I realized that objective decision making and our elected officials actually don't have our best interests in mind from the way I saw it. And I decided that I wanted to, after some time in the private sector, go out and help those creating the change that we need. So it's been this organic transition based on my life requirements. But at the end, I remember the moment very clearly when a series of events happened in my government role where it broke me. And I realized that I was working against my values and needed to work with those who were aligned.
That's very interesting. I feel like it's usually the catalyst when we have to, like, maybe, I don't want to say hit rock bottom, but hit rock bottom, our own version of rock bottom. Then that's when we take this huge leap of faith that we didn't even know that we were capable of. So that's very.
It's pain. It's all about pain. Pain creates change. Experienced salespeople use pain to be able to convert prospects into buyers. We do not make change in our life based on logic. It's emotional and it's change. For men, there's a higher amount of logic in decision making. For women, there's more emotion in decision making. The psychology and human aspect of everything is really essential to understand. The more you understand people, the more you can elevate, not empower, but activate and mobilize teams.
Yeah. Definitely. So when you first started your business then, what did you feel was the most uncertain for you?
Oh, there's so much uncertainty. The transition or the growth of entrepreneurship. It sounds cliche and people may hear this all the time. You grow through it. It's what you become. It's not the business. It's your change that allows and enables the business success. The uncertainty starts with going to market and thinking many solutions or offers are wise because that reduces the risk of failure. But as someone wise told me, is chase one rabbit at a time. So it's really to prevent or avoid that uncertainty is to create that certainty to align with the market gap that you can solve with an offer, and especially doing or providing an offer solution that lights you up. Doing work that you really love changes everything. Coupled with the security of having revenue and a roof over your head.
Yeah, exactly. So when did you feel like the business was less fragile and more stable? What changed to make you have a little bit more security there?
It wasn't until about a year and a half ago. And when you've spent enough time speaking with others, competitors, clients, prospects, and other professionals, and realizing your value and your worth, when you really understand that and what you provide in the marketplace and realize no one can do it as well as you can because of your doctrine, your expertise, your experience, and the proof points that you start acquiring just by having clients or customers, making sales, creating that revenue, that's when it changes, and understanding that you are now doing what you want the way you want to do it and are getting the results.
Right.
But the pieces to achieve that, it's one thing to be good at your trade. If you're within, say, as a consultant or an advisory service, if you're within a professional organization, a big four consultancy, they're doing the lead generation and you're just executing, doing the work. That's very different than actually defining your product, marketing it, getting prospects, building a pipeline, delivering, and doing all the other stuff. There are so many layers. There's only that expertise is such a small piece of the total puzzle. And it reminds me of in the Army, there's something called battle procedure. There's 16 or 17 steps of battle procedure, and the third last is the mission. That's your skill set. There's 15 other things that are required to be able to succeed.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that way even in my own business. At the beginning, it was so confusing and so overwhelming for me trying to be everything and do everything and learn all of these skills. And it felt like I was just spinning my wheels, like I would never get anywhere. But, over
The
time,
amount of information and the different marketers, and I got swindled about people promising that, oh, we'll get you this and you'll have X amount of revenue in so many months. And they're all full of crap. Because they're really good at sales, but they don't know your business. They don't know your market as well as you do. And it's a challenge. And part of that overwhelm is, there's Alex Hormozy, there's Dan Kennedy, there's Russell Brunson. Who should I follow? And you spend so much time learning, studying, joining masterminds, and trying to absorb it all, this thinking that you'll be able to get all that information to execute and succeed immediately. But it's noise. And the best value, the best lessons are just executing, going out, talking to people, getting clients, and getting that experience. That's the market feedback you need to be able to position yourself better, to alter your offer so that you're actually delivering what people need.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good way to think about it too. Because you're absolutely right. I didn't start to see any traction until after I stopped trying to take the shortcuts and pay for the services, because I've spent thousands of dollars trying to get help that I never received. Yeah, it wasn't until I just sit down and think about it for my own self and just spoke to people, and I did it wrong for a really long time. But eventually having conversations, people are a lot more forgiving than we usually give them credit for.
Yes. And there's so many different sayings that I hold on to. And excuse me, one of them is something along the lines of, if you ask someone for money, they'll say no. But if you ask them for advice, they'll give you money, or they'll give you a job, because it shows you care, you're interested, you're growth minded. And if there's one thing I could impart to anybody listening is, don't get distracted by that noise and buy in. Go talk to somebody that's done it. Get a mentor. And don't get a mentor that's a billionaire. Get a mentor that's only 2 stages ahead of you.
Yes.
That's it. That's what you need. Someone that's just done it and can tell you in near real time. Because somebody who started 20 years ago, technology was different, marketing, communications was different. There's no AI. Very different lessons learned and best practices.
Yeah, definitely. So at this stage in your business, when money comes into the business, what usually needs attention first?
All the software subscriptions. I leverage AI in a serious way, and have been for the last 3.5 years. And I'd say I'm confident to call myself an expert in AI, although I don't market myself as such, because I feel there's, again, many people doing that. So revenue goes to pay that. Revenue goes to pay team members. And then from there, it's at the moment, developing a lot of products and solutions that are are AI and tech based, and I'm reluctant to call it SaaS because I've ensured that there's always a human in the loop for this tier of advisory where there is such a high level of complexity. You cannot rely on AI. AI is not sophisticated enough to answer the questions and to solve the problems. So there's a lot of challenge required, and the revenue spent at the moment for developers, and later in the summer they'll be spent towards marketing as a few things go to market.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, again, this is your interview. I keep interjecting, but I feel like there's so many commonalities here. Just I've also worked really hard to just understand AI, and I think as a business owner, you have to understand all of the moving parts, and not in order for anything to get done. But then it leads you down these weird rabbit holes. Now I'm building an AI system.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the time suck of it, and being able to pull yourself out of that, which is again another say Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Is begin with the end in mind. Always have a time limit, whether it's in your daily tasks, whether it's in productization or a goal, is what am I trying to achieve by when? And you really have to set the time aside to design or develop the AI tools to support you. So there are chats and LLMs where you just go back and forth and it can help you. But if you're actually creating an automation or any systemization or for recurring activities to automate, it takes a lot of time and doing it right so that it's actually helpful. And that's not something you do in real time. You really have to time block and set aside a meaningful chunk of hours to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I had my team read this recently, maybe a month ago. Everyone was required to read The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Okay.
It's a book that it talks a lot about deciding on what is the one thing I can do right now that will make everything else either unnecessary or I forget the saying, I wrote it down, such that by doing everything else becomes easier or unnecessary.
It's right.
Um,
Which side? So I'm assuming you've got that posted up on a
it's on my
board.
wall. It's on my wall right here next to my Pomodoro calculator. I just have to make sure that I'm very specific with the way that I time block or how much effort I put into my business when my nice.
That's exactly it. My like pen and paper because there's something really satisfying about crossing something off. But I use this timer for the time blocking, and it's visual, so I know how much time I'm spending on something. Also, just to get up and move, and then a visual list of what my priorities are for the day. So I plan that out early in the week, and I compartmentalize. I block out everything else. It's exactly what you said is what's that one thing that's going to move my business forward today? Am I perfect at it? Heck, no, because I get caught up in, oh, I didn't get this done yesterday. I need to finish it. And that's a really big weakness of mine is a bit of time blindness and not appropriately estimate the time or level of effort every task takes. Again, because of the complexity of the work I do requires a large amount of analysis, and it's consuming. So yeah, that's a challenge. I'm working on it.
Yes, me too, by the way.
Good. Glad I'm not alone.
Right. So my next question is, what parts of the business do you think still depend heavily on you to be the key person there?
I'd say and this is it, the complexity and everything that's in my brain from my experience, and which is precisely what I've been codifying, a complex framework. So taking all the successes I've had and breaking them down over my career to codify it so I can replicate myself as well as create the AI tools for others. And this is so that I am able to grow my team and others are able to provide the same level of services without me. And it's called integrated stewardship because what I realized is corporations are run at the expense of everybody else. It's all about profit and it's about squeezing as much as possible to extract that value. And we'll see more of that as AI takes over. And we consolidate power into large multinationals, and there is no separation between the political system and capitalism. So how can we get the results we need, which is more connection, collaboration, and community. And integrated stewardship is quantified metrics to really, and I'll be transparent about this. I want to eat the lunch of the big four and democratize that level of advisory for small, medium businesses so that they can rise. And there's an opportunity to compete against the big players. So codifying this in integrated stewardship, and the principles are to create equal wins between the organization, stakeholders, and the community. So that is what I'm finalizing and wanting to get out to every SMB out there so that they can have it at a fraction of what this level of advisory costs, along with the tracking mechanics, the dashboards packaged into a single solution. That just makes it simple, because let's face it, founders leading small teams and significant complexity and economic shifts need to have the right things measured and tracked so that they can succeed and sustainably succeed, not just at the cost of their health and their team.
What are some of the warning signs that you see that the structure of a small business hasn't caught up to their growth yet?
It's endemic. I see this in every organization I work with, is that all the decision making, or the majority of decision making, rests on the founder. The ideas, the strategy, and the structure's lacking to distribute that accountability and have the processes to vet information, to understand the priorities, and to pivot as necessary to free up the time of the founder. And so a metric I have with CEOs when I work with them is we need to free up 30% of your time. And that 30% is, I quantify everything. That's the engineer and the economist in me. 30% to be able to spend more time doing strategic work, planning, prioritizing. And the other piece is to deal with issues, fires, issues escalation, because that provides the piece, but they need to be able to get that off their head. And it's the structures within the organization, the decision-making, the accountability, having clear reporting and incentives based on the roles, because if you don't have that structure, you will fail. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
Right.
And my trinity for success is clear, clear measurable goals. So it's quantified, X amount of revenue by X month, having the right incentives. If people have skin in the game, that's how they perform and that's what they'll prioritize. And then ultimately accountability. Who owns what? Get it off the founder or the CEO's plate and out of his or her head.
I think I see that quite a lot in small businesses. I think that's very normal because, like we were just talking about, you having to be everything and learn everything and systemize everything on your own. Then once you get to a certain level, it's a little bit difficult to take a step back and work on the business instead of in the business.
Yes.
So I can see where that would come in and be really useful as a service to business owners, because sometimes you don't even know what you don't know. Then ask for it.
Well, but you don't know what you don't know. And it's perfectly understandable if someone who understands everything intimately, understands the ecosystem, the market, the product or service and what they've created, it's in their head. They start delegating. No matter what, whoever they delegate it to will not be able to do it as well as they can. But then it's a double-edged sword. You're not freeing up that time for whether it's just thinking to be able to do the other things, to be able to grow and scale. So it's a tricky choke point, but when it's done intentionally and methodically, it's what allows growth. You have to free up that time to be able to grow, because then you just lack the capacity.
Definitely. So what I know we're getting close to time, so I just have maybe two more questions here. My first is, what is your relationship with risk? How has being in business changed the way that you think about risk?
Risk, I see everything from a lens of risk. And that evolution has changed in different ways. So, risk in everyday life, I'll use the example of you cross the street, you look left, you look right before you cross the street. That's risk management. And then the decision is, can I make it before the next car or not? If you run, you risk tripping, and risk is a combination of probability and impact. So every aspect is either can this be deferred, transferred, mitigated, managed, and making that decision as I evolve, or my change, the view has changed in terms of faster decision making, is assessing the risk and impact to be able to move faster and go further, because the more you delay and try to analyze and mitigate it, the risk is less output, impact becoming irrelevant. So it's about speed and a higher level of acceptance for risk. But that comes with trade-offs. There is a trade-off for everything. The same way universal law of physics apply in the world, same thing applies with money. If you view every dollar as a soldier deploying that needs to get some sort of return, what are you willing to lose? And do you have contingencies? Can you mitigate or pivot if it goes the other way? So move faster. And on my monitor, I've got build the plane while it's taking off, and I should know this: complexity fails, simplicity scales, and done beats perfect, because it's speed. It's, for me, another weakness is I need to move faster. It's a hard balance, again, with the complexity, and the margin for error is so slim for the work I do and for my clients. So it's balancing that out.
The speed of execution is really important when you are trying to build, and it gets so complicated, like it gets messy in the middle until
it really does. And risk is such, and I could speak for hours on risk. When you look at enterprise or corporate organizations, it's overcomplicated in terms of how are they recording risk. It goes on a risk register, it becomes a change management plan. The chief audit executive now creates an audit plan based on the risk register. And so you're looking at 6 to 9 months before risk is actually addressed. Risk management should be more informal, and through more communication with your teams, that's how it's achieved. So I firmly believe risk is underappreciated, overmanaged, and creates complexity and hurts organizations because of how it's done. Informalize it, make it, increase communication up and down and across your organization to increase awareness amongst everybody so that it can be managed in real time.
So my final question here is, when you started this business, I like to ask this kind of question at the end, because I want you to give this from a lens that would help people who are just a few steps behind you, who may be trying to figure out how to even begin to understand how to get to where you are. So my question here is, when you first started the business, what did you ultimately want it to create for you? And how does that look today?
It's really, not everyone is cut out to create their own business.
Yeah.
Understanding the challenges and even the financial runway I'd initially planned, and what that turned into with those marketing companies and this financial scarcity and then the worry that was created. This wasn't intended to be a lifestyle business. It was intended to help the right people create the right change and impact. That aspect is going very well. Personal work-life balance, I still don't have that, especially as I develop the product and my system and frameworks to be able to get out to market is what drives me, and it's why I get out of bed every day. But my days are mostly work, and I'd say there's areas of my house that are uncapped, and I don't see as many of my friends as I'd like, and that's the reality, and that's the trade-off I'm willing to make. And what I've openly shared with my friends is this is where I'm at, and I'm damn dedicated to achieving it and excited for more impact and the revenue and such, but it's a heavy lift.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not going to romanticize it, and anyone that does is full of crap.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the trade-off. Like you have to, if you're going to be a serious business owner by any stretch of the imagination, you have to make the decision that no matter what, by hook or by crook, this is going to happen. And you're going to put in the time and effort it takes to get to where you said that you wanted to go. Otherwise, if you give even like 20% less, I know that that doesn't seem like much, but it will cost you at the end of the day. What could happen in a year will maybe take you another 10.
And if it's easy, everyone would be doing it. The reward is there. And to those who may be struggling, it's don't stop. Look at what is working. Celebrate your wins. Something I could do better at as well is pause to recognize what's going well, as opposed to, I think a lot of entrepreneurs and driven people are focused on what they could be doing better or what's not done and what was missed. Looking at what is working and just appreciating that, because it's the mindset as well as perspective that will be healthier for you and help you achieve results faster.
Definitely. So for people who may be out there listening and may have heard of your company for the first time, where would they find you? What is the easiest way for them to find you?
If they're listening, they probably wouldn't have any idea how to spell my name. So Googling me, Hinesh Chauhan from Ottawa, I'm the only one around, or Evolut Consult. EvolutConsult.com is a good starting place. But either place, reach out, message, especially to those who just may be stuck. And not talking about the organizations, I think that's a given in terms of the support we give, but on a one-to-one basis for any entrepreneur that's in a similar space, because finding someone in my space as an individual starting a consultancy or an advisory firm, there's not many. And how do you distinguish yourself, and what's your difference? What are you doing different? And having a conversation about that. I think that was the biggest thing that was lacking, or that I wasn't able to find. I'd be happy to have a conversation with anybody in that space.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've really appreciated the conversation. I think that this was great. And hopefully we can speak again very soon.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. It's nice to actually speak to a fellow Canadian.
Amazing. Thank you. That's it for this episode of Stealth Audio. Real conversations with people building things most others only talk about. If you'd like to share your story on the show, or you're ready to build your own Stealth 30 system, you can apply for either at growingwithdiana.com/stealth30.